I got some bad news. You need to make your life worse. Now, I promise I'm not being facetious. This is a motivational video. But the fact is that you and me, we gotta make our lives worse. And this is coming straight from the two biggest podcasters in men's health, Diary of the CEO and Modern Wisdom. So listen to a clip from their podcast and think about it.
The region beta paradox. Imagine that if you were going to travel less than a mile, you'd walk it. If you're going to travel a mile or more, you would drive it. Paradoxically, you would travel 2 miles quicker than you would travel 1 mile. So you jump in the car. And what this suggests is that if we only act when things cross a certain threshold of badness, worse things can be better than better things. So for instance, the person who lives in an apartment and it's in a kind of a sketchy area of town and there's a little bit of mold on the ceiling and the housemate's kind of a bit weird, but it's really cheap and they quite like the bed and it's not too far from their work. Someone's in a relationship and their partner's not abusive or mean to them, but not really that fired up and don't really see that much of a future with them. Or the person who's got a job and their boss is a bit of a dick and it doesn't pay that well, but it's really cushy and they don't actually have to work that hard. All of these people would be better off if their situations were worse, because it would galvanize them to go and do something. And this zone of comfortable complacency that people get into is where they can sit for a very long time. And this is a really dangerous one. Things aren't bad enough to be bad, but they're nowhere near good enough to be good. And this sort of gray zone, this liminal space, this sort of like productivity purgatory that you sit in, just sort of allows you to keep moving forward. You're not moving toward what you want, but there's not enough discomfort to get you to do it. One of the most spicy questions that's been asked at one of my live talks about this was, should I purposefully make my life worse so that it kicks me out the bottom of region beta? I'm like, it's a high-risk strategy. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is a difficulty.
You see that? You see what they talked about? They talked about the idea, the controversial, paradoxical idea that in order for us to get the life we want, we need to make our lives worse. Now, they explained it a little bit, but I wanted to expand why that could actually work, why that is so crazy, it might just work. And there's two main reasons why I think that kind of phenomenon could work. The first is because we live in the exponential age. The second is because we live in a simulation. So let's unpack those two things for this week's Sunday sermon about the simulation scriptures. One is the exponential age. Look at this graph of what it means to go exponential. You see how it starts off like you're just trundling along. You're not really seeing a difference in anything. You're just kind of moving, grooving, doing your thing. And then things start picking up. Things start moving. All right, here we go. And then boom, you're off to the races. You have reached escape velocity. You are shooting for the moon and beyond. You see that graph? Well, guess what? Right before that rocket launch, right before your life changes completely, that middle zone is the zone of complacency. That is the zone that if you get stuck, you might never make it out. Because here's the point. This graph means that you started all the way at the bottom and you were going, and then you rocketed off. But what happens in real life is that people start either in complacency and stay there, or they have a really bad life, they go, and then they get to the zone of complacency, and then they just kind of fade away. They kind of just, this is good enough. This is fine. This is okay. I want something better and more awesome and more adventure and someone in my life and a fit body. I want it, but not that much. You get what I mean. I've been there. I've been stuck in that zone of complacency. And here's why it's dangerous. Because you'll never get to the life you really want. That's why it's dangerous. Listen, have you ever seen like a skateboarder doing tricks or a BMX person doing tricks? Okay. You'll notice that before they get to the top of the ramp where they go and do the cool trick, they don't start at like the bottom of the ramp and then try and like get up there. They start all the way back here and get up momentum and then boom, they're launching. Okay? Or like a pinball machine, like a pinball arcade game. That's a cool example, all right? Because you must have seen like a pinball arcade machine. But think about the little minuscule details that happen right before you're playing the game and having a lot of fun. That pinball doesn't just start from like right by the game without any momentum, because if it did, it would just flop. You wouldn't be able to play it. No, what do you do to that pinball? You move that lever down and you load that spring. The pinball moves downward with you. And then you let go and bam, you're playing the game. Okay? So what does that look like for you and me? What does that look like in practice? Because here's the thing. The way you know if you are in that zone of complacency or in the zone of momentum, you don't see it visually. You feel it. And here's what it looks like. Here's what it feels like. It feels like if you hate the body you're in, you're at the grocery store. And you've got food that's real terrible for you, and you know it, and food that's healthy for you. You've got a bottle of alcohol, or you've got a bottle of juice. And if you choose the unhealthy food and the bottle of alcohol over all that, then guess what? No matter how terrible your body looks from the outside and how it feels, you're actually still in the zone of complacency. Because you need to be in that area where you are so angry about the body you're in. You are so sick of it. You are so done feeling the way you feel that you spring forward, you shoot past the zone of complacency because you're on that trajectory out of the zone of complacency because you were just in anger and motivation and fire. And it's the same thing with finances, for example. With finances, let's say that you want a Ferrari or you want a Rollie or you want nice drip, fit, whatever it is we're calling it these days. Or just you don't want to worry about money anymore. Okay? And you think to yourself, I must be back here. I must be in the zone of motivation. That's got to be where I am. I'm so angry. I'm so sick of being poor and broke. I'm so sick of working this menial job, this boss that I hate, or being unemployed. I'm sick of it. How could it get worse? How could I make my life worse? Again, it's not visual. You don't know if you're here in the zone of complacency or here by just the how many dollars or zeros you have in your bank account. No. This is the way you tell if you're in complacency or not. You got 2 hours in the evening to kill. Okay? 2 hours. What do you do with those 2 hours? If you pick up your video game controller, sit down for a video game or whatever, or doom scroll, if you choose to do that for 2 hours, I'm sorry. You are in the zone of complacency. That's where you're at. If instead you put down the phone and doom scrolling because you are so angry by it that you lock it and put it in another room. If instead you take your game console and sell it or lock it away or don't play it, whatever, and instead for those 2 hours, work on, like Gary Vee did, like going to garage sales and buying something for $5 and then reselling it on eBay. Or searching for other jobs. And I know the job market is terrible. I know it's difficult to find a job. It is. I get it. I'm there. It's not that I've been there. I am there. But my choice for those 2 hours that I have is to put away the game and instead try and do something to make money. And just iterating and just trying. And if I do that, then that is evidence, that is proof that I'm not in the zone of complacency. I am here in the zone of motivation where I'm going to slingshot my way up. Those are the examples that I've got for you. And the same thing applies to a romantic relationship. Listen, if you are choosing to scroll through OnlyFans, I'm sorry, you're in the zone of complacency. No matter how alone you feel and depressed because you're alone, you're in the zone of complacency. You're not in the zone of motivation. You need to make your life worse. And by that, and this is the summary of it, this is how do you make your life worse. You don't need to make your life worse by doing something that is destructive. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you need to do something to make your life worse that makes you angry, that gives you that frustration and anger that then propels you into change. So for example, when I put away my video game console, okay, I get angry. My brain is like, I want that dopamine. I need that dopamine. I need that. And I get angry. I want to throw a tantrum. Okay? When I tell myself, no, I'm not going to be doom scrolling. No, I'm not going to be looking at OnlyFans anymore. My brain gets angry. And I need to channel that anger into things that will slingshot me past complacency, into the vertical ascent of success, of happiness, of a fit body, of leveling up my character and my game in this simulation. Them's the facts. And that leads me to point number 2 about why this clip from Diary of a CEO and Modern Wisdom, why it makes sense. That's because we live in a simulation. There it is, right out there, right in here. We live in a simulation. And the simulation scriptures, they tell us that the simulation will render into our lives what we accept. That's what the simulation scriptures have to say about this. That's what the simulation scriptures say to prove this point. Right? Because listen, the simulation that is running all around us is like any other kind of game or AI model or anything like that. It's exactly the same. And what have you heard about with an AI kind of construct, with a LLM? What have you heard about with a GTA 6, with that kind of a video game? What have you heard? That they are power hungry. They need so much power. We've seen those articles that the Gigafactory and the AI thing that Elon Musk is putting together takes as much power as a small country. They are power hungry. And the way that all of the scientists are making that work is by making these AI models as power efficient as possible. The same thing applies to this simulation that we're living in. This simulation is trying to be as power efficient as possible. So, when the simulation receives your signal that, hey, I want a Ferrari, okay? The simulation receives that signal, and the simulation calculates out how much power it is going to take to make you happy. How much power it is going to take to render a real 3D with Ferrari, with glossy paint and the leather that feels so supple and smells good, and the power of that engine. How much is it going to take to render not only that Ferrari into real life, but then you driving it like a maniac? I'm assuming, because that's what I would do. Driving it along the streets and everyone else noticing it, everyone else's game also seeing it, perceiving it. That is a lot of computational power. Right? But the simulation says, what if I give this person, instead of a real Ferrari, what if I give them a Ferrari in Need for Speed or a Ferrari in Gran Turismo? What if I give them that? Let's see what happens. And then when you accept that Ferrari in Need for Speed and Gran Turismo, when you accept it and spend an hour, 10 hours of your time enjoying it, racing around and everything, then the simulation is like, oh, whoa, look at that. It's a win-win. That person's dopamine receptors are firing off. They think they're driving a Ferrari. They think they're having fun. Great. And I didn't have to render anything. I just gave them this mini game, and there you go. They're playing it. That's what we're fighting against. And the absolutely same thing applies for everything else. Are you lonely? Are you alone and you want a significant other? You're projecting that. You're projecting that. And the simulation's like, okay, I hear you. I hear you. Calm down. I get it. I get it. But, trade offer for you. Let me give you this girl on OnlyFans or an AI fake model. Let me give that to you and see what happens. Oh, you're interacting with them. Your neurons are firing. Your dopamine's going. You're, enjoying yourself. You know what I mean? Win-win. I didn't have to put two people together, re-render their entire lives together. Now they're going to want to go on dates and I have to render, lasagna and a red wine at a restaurant. I don't have to do any of that. They're happy in their room talking to their OnlyFans girlfriend. And I'm happy. I don't have to compute all of that nonsense. That's what the simulation's doing. With stuff like Ferraris, with people, with anything, everything. Everything. Okay? So, the conclusion to that is the same. If you want to get to the life that you really want, then you need to get angry enough and frustrated enough where, here's the key, you refuse the substitutes that the simulation is offering you. You refuse them. You say to the simulation, I want a real Ferrari. Oh, you're giving it to me in this video game? No, I don't want that. I don't want that. Instead, I'm going to use my time trying to figure out how to buy it so that I'm going to force you into rendering into the 3D this car for me. Okay? Let's say you are so depressed that you are so lonely that you really want somebody in your life. And here's the simulation. And the simulation is like, hey, how about this girl on OnlyFans? Doesn't matter that she's dating 10,000 other men. How about her? She'll write to you. Oh, you're happy about that? Oh, you're fine? You're using your time to, talk to her instead of going out and finding somebody IRL? Great. You win. I win because I don't have to render, date night somewhere. Great. So again, you need to say to the simulation, no, I refuse this artificial substitute of a significant other. I refuse that. I want you to bring me another player in the simulation. And the simulation will. Because that other person that's brought into your life also wants to be brought into your life. They are also putting out that same signal and also refusing the cheap substitutes and instead accepting you. There you have it. In conclusion, for this Sunday sermon about the simulation scriptures, 1, we're living in the exponential age and we can absolutely change our lives quickly. But we will not do that if we're stuck in complacency because we don't have the momentum. We need to get back here to momentum so that you have the passion and the anger to rocket you past complacency into the life that you want. And 2, we live in a simulation where the simulation is very power efficient and wants to substitute cheap, low resolution things into your life. So what you need to do is refuse them and instead use your time to pursue, to force the simulation to render into your life what you really want. That's my 20 minutes on the matter. Let me know what you think. I'm endlessly curious. I need to know if I'm barking up the wrong tree here or not. Let me know if that's something you're going to try. It's definitely something I'm going to try. I'm going to try to make my life worse by getting frustrated and angry at all of the cheap substitutes the simulation's giving me, and instead refuse them and use my time to work on things to demand that the simulation render into my life what I really want. I'll keep you updated on how it goes. Hold me accountable by subscribing and commenting. And if you want, I will hold you accountable as well. Just tell me what your resolutions are for this year and what you're up to.